Hi, everybody. Welcome to day 6 of this week of live streams. Thank you so much for joining me again. And we have a really, truly international group here at the moment. So Istanbul, Texas, Connecticut, New Zealand. So you're all very welcome. And thank you so much for joining me. So if you missed the bootcamp earlier in the week, and if you're not quite sure what the EcoPrint and Wet Felt Club is, I'll get to that in a minute. But the first thing is, who am I and where do I live? So my name is Nicola Brown. I'm a sustainable textile artist living and working in rural Ireland. My practice primarily consists of wet felting, eco-printing without powdered mordants, and growing my own natural dye plants. And I'm passionate about sharing these techniques with other people and trying to strip out all that additional information that's out there. I like cutting to the chase and giving you really clear tips about how to get the most from either felt making or eco-printing. So please feel free, drop a comment, let us know when or where you're tuning in from. I see we have Scotland in the house. Hi, Scotland. So I think that what I would like to do tonight is I have some questions that have come in to me via a form that I sent out asking for feedback, and questions that people are asking me about eco-printing and felting. These are questions that come up time and time again. So I think what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to share some of these questions now. I'm going to answer them. I'm going to explain again about what the EcoPrint and Wet Felt Club, for those people who may not have joined any of the previous broadcasts this week. And you can then make your choice up. There's no pressure to join whatsoever, but it might be something for you if you want to drive your practice further. So the first thing I'm going to do is I will share. Let me get myself organized here. I'm actually by myself today because SOC, who is in the Philippines, they had a big storm last night. So in case anybody's wondering where SOC was last night, they lost all their power. So he's having the weekend off, and I'll be in touch with him again on Monday. And actually, I see a comment from Tracy. Thanks, Tracy. Believe it or not, I made this myself. It's a wonderful pattern. It's called the Tie Elastic Sweater from the assembly line. And I also have a beautiful version that I love in linen, and a really nice one in Irish woven wool silk blend. So it's a very interesting pattern to make, and thank you very much. So here I go about these questions. So these are questions that people have been either emailing me, sending me via the form, or asking me on Instagram or Facebook. So one of the questions, we're here now on, I thought I had, actually, I'm going to go with these ones first. So how to achieve crisp, sharp eco prints as a beginner, and what exactly is a dirty pot, and how do you start one? So both of these are very good questions, because I think that everybody, when they start eco printing, whether they work with traditional powdered mordants or they work without traditional powdered mordants to fix the color, I think that everybody is interested in achieving crisp prints. So there are some things that you need to understand, and that really, the simplest things, you need to work on the correct fabric, you need to work in the correct pot, you need to use vegetation that is guaranteed to give you prints, and then you need to boil, if you're using the dirty pot without mordants, you need to boil the pot for a specific amount of time. So I might just start off by saying, what is the best project to start with as a new eco printer? And what also is the best fabric to print on? So I would also ask, and I see somebody has already done it, if you have any questions, please can you actually put question marks at the beginning and the end of your question, and that's easier for me to find in the chat when I'm working by myself. So I would say that the best project to start as a new eco printer is to print something that is rectangular. It's certainly possible to print all sorts of different shapes, but if you work with a rectangle of fabric, that's the easiest shape to bundle. It will be the easiest to work with, and the best fabric that I could recommend to anybody is either wool or handmade felt. Now, a lot of people get very, I'm not sure that agitated is the right word, but a little bit worked up about the fact, for example, that wool fabric is expensive. Now, clearly, if you're also a wet felt maker, you can make your own felt, and that's the ultimate fabric to eco print on. But I would say when you're learning any technique, many people try printing on cotton, for example, first, and cheap cotton at that. And really, you can get excellent eco prints on cellulose fabric in the dirty pot, but cotton is not the easiest fabric to print on. So you want to set yourself up for success. That would be my top tip. So the best project is rectangular. And what's the best fabric to print on? I would say wool or felt. Silk is also excellent, but wool might be easier to access, such as something like this fabric. This fabric here was an old woolen blanket, and somebody actually gave me the blanket. And this is a simple origami style bag. So it's a long rectangle of fabric that is 3 times as long as it is wide. And then it's just stitched very simply into a bag. And so for this one here, I used an old woolen blanket, and I used a few leaves that I was making samples with to see how they would print. That very large leaf you can see on the right-hand side, that's about 29 centimeters long. It really is ginormous. And that leaf is actually a Korean oak, Quercus dentata. Carl Ferris Miller is the name of that oak. So an origami bag is a really good project, even if you're like me and you're not the best at sewing when you start eco printing, or if you do a rectangle that you can use as a wall hanging, or maybe a mat for a table. Then if you're an eco printer and a felt maker and you have a little experience, I'll just show you how the same bag looks in a very, very much more sophisticated way. So here we go. So this particular bag here, this was made for my swap partner, Marion, during a recent international felt makers, swap. And the theme was weaving. So what I did with this specific piece was I actually laid out my wool fiber, and then I wove strips of eco-printed silk for my surface decoration. And if you notice that there are bumps on this piece, let's look at a close-up there. So with the bumps on the piece, I have a tutorial on YouTube, and the tutorial is for making felt beads. So all of us have projects that we're not very happy with for one reason or another. And you can cut those pieces up, and you can actually put them onto thread, and you can pop them into your washing machine and make felt beads. So this here, this particular bag, I laid out my wool, I wove with strips of eco-printed silk, and I included these beads in as embellishments. And this is something that I won't be sharing otherwise on YouTube per se, this specific making of this bag, but I recorded every aspect of that. And that is something that I am going to be sharing with members of the EcoPrint and Wet Felt Club. This bit will come just in a few weeks' time after we've gone through all the foundations. And I can see already that we do have a question here. So Ferda, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. So you're saying that PayPal doesn't have a system in Turkey. So yes, particularly if you were happy to pay the annual fee, it will be possible. I can organize to get you my bank details, and we can do it that way further. So if you would like to send me a message on Instagram or Facebook after the live stream ends, just send me a private message with your email details and we will sort that out together. And let me know if you would like me to set up, or if it's possible, if you want the monthly subscription. I'll talk about the expense a little bit later on for everyone who might have missed it, or if you'd like to pay the founding member the annual subscription. So yes, I'm very happy to sort you out with that. So I see more questions coming in about eco-printing in the dirty pot, and I will answer them in a minute. So I'm just going to move on and show you another close-up of this particular origami bag. So can you actually see on top of those bumps, there are interesting lines. Well, the bigger bump on the nearer the lower portion in the middle or to the right of the image, that almost looks like it's got a little pattern on the fabric, and that actually does have a pattern on the fabric. So that pattern was woven into the silk. But if you look at the little bump to the left of that slightly higher up, you can see stripes on it. Those stripes are coming from the tie marks from the eco-printed silk. And then the bump at the top has got some orangey brown and a paler color, and that's from a piece of onion skin. So it's very, very interesting. Everybody wants to get crisp, or most people want to get crisp and clear prints at the very beginning, but it is also really interesting to incorporate your eco-printed fabric and create abstract designs as well. So here are a few more questions. So what exactly is a dirty pot, and how do you set one up? And the simplest way of saying that, oh, hang on. Let me just see. Okay, this is how you set the pot up. So I highly recommend that everybody who is new to working without powdered mordants works with an aluminium pot. It's going to give you the absolute best results at the beginning, and it helps make your pieces more color and wash fast. To set the pot up, you would half fill it with clean water, add at least 500 milliliters. So for people who are used to pints, that's 1 pint minimum of vinegar. Any vinegar will do. And then put a chunk of rust into the water. I've made a mistake on my slide. I meant to say a chunk of rust into the water, or rusty metal. You can see there I'm lowering an iron into my pot, and then you would boil the water for about 1 hour. You can add some eucalyptus leaves and onion skins, and then you will have your first dirty pot set up. However, I cannot stress enough, please do not shove all sorts of other leaves and vegetation in. If you put oak leaves, if you put oak galls, if you put any other sort of vegetation into your pot, except for eucalyptus and onion skins, I cannot guarantee you will be happy with the results. So I'm just saying that there. Now, this is an excellent question here. Can I try a dirty pot in an old copper pot? Absolutely, yes. The copper does not give the same color prints as aluminium. So for example, if I use eucalyptus leaves that give a good red in aluminium, they will give very much more of a soft peach or apricot tone in copper. But I would set the copper pot up in exactly the same way. The water, the vinegar, the piece of rusty metal, boil for an hour, and off you go. So yes, you can certainly use it, but I think you will find that the results are a lot more vibrant from the aluminium. And A cast iron pot is wonderful for eco printing, making a dirty pot, but the results are stronger and darker, and not everybody really likes them as much. So that's one reason that I highly recommend aluminium at the beginning. You have to start somewhere. So there's no point in trying to jump ahead. I believe in starting at the beginning and then working from there. So I recommend aluminium. Now here's a question from Jean. Please can you tell us again how long you leave your vegetation in the pot for? So onion skins do something called exhaust. So if I put onion skins in my pot and then I have a session where I eco print, all the dye from the onion skins will be released from the onion skins into the water and absorbed by what I'm printing. So once that has happened, they have no more natural dye to release. But my pots are big, so I have no problem leaving the leaves there until the pot starts to get a bit too full. But eucalyptus leaves and also eucalyptus bark, on the other hand, they actually continue to release color for several weeks. So I leave them in until I've either used them for 4 or 5 sessions or weeks, or there's not enough space in the pot. So that's that there. So I'm going to see, Rose has a question. So Rose, if I have got my brain screwed on correctly, you've actually joined the EcoPrint Meets Wet Felt Club, haven't you? So if you could just pop that down in the comments for me, please, just write yes or no. I think you've already joined the Wet Felt Club. So eucalyptus globulus leaves are very interesting. I have worked with them in Australia and they gave wonderful, wonderful red prints. I mean, they were truly amazing. I've planted the trees here on my property in Ireland. They're still very young and I have not got red from them yet. So Rose, I will be giving you quite a comprehensive list in the EcoPrint and Wet Felt Club of eucalyptus leaves that I have found extremely successful. So I think that's the sort of thing we're going to, as a group, I will give you a list of a lot of vegetation that I find excellent. But as a group, we're going to identify more vegetation and build a database that will be in the library. So we will all have things to add from it or to it. And I think your question also brings up the point that for people who don't have experience working without powdered mordants, you may find that there are leaves that, well, first of all, nothing like the number of leaves or vegetation gives good prints without powdered mordants. And by good prints, I mean prints that are a good color, they're washable, and they are light fast. Because there's no point in sorry, one second. Yeah. I see this question here, but I will answer it in a minute. I'm by myself. I have to look at everything, so I will answer it in 1 second, Florbonda, sorry, because I'm getting distracted now. So the thing is, we all live in different time zones and climates. So eucalyptus globulus or blue gum grows very, very extensively in Portugal. It grows in Ireland, if we plant it, it's not as hardy here, and it grows extremely well in Australia. I've taught extensively outside Guarda in northern Portugal, and I have yet to get a red print from any eucalyptus growing in Portugal. However, in Portugal, you also have wonderful trees called catalpa. Nothing like eucalyptus, but the catalpa in Portugal gives glorious prints, even though it's a very soft leaf. So if anybody's living in a country where catalpa grows, I cannot recommend that enough. Now, so I'm going to just scroll down quickly and just see now about the question that I must have missed. So yeah, so here's okay, so an iron fire pit in the garden filling with rainwater. I forgot to remove the ashes and it's full of rust water. Can I use that water with the ash? I would not. I would take the water out because the ash is going to be very alkaline. That would be my understanding. I am not a chemist and I'm not pretending to be a chemist, but the ash is very alkaline. And often when we are eco-printing, an acidic environment helps sharpen the colors. And that's why we're adding vinegar to the pot. It's not a mordant, but it's a modifier and it helps us achieve certain colors. Eucalyptus as a species particularly likes an acidic environment. So the ash is going to affect the colors you get. So I would say no, do not. I would just clean it all out and let it continue to get water. And if it already has, if it's full of rust water with ash, it'll fill, you get rust water again very quickly. And a tip for you, if you have an old rusty metal pot with no water in it, and you want to make your rust water quicker, just put in half a litre, a pint of vinegar and some water and just leave it. It will happen quicker with the vinegar in as well. So this is a good question, Kimmy. So I love my pots black as the ace of spades, providing you tie your bundles very tightly. It doesn't mean that your whole piece is going to be black, but it's only by experience you can identify what you personally like. But there is an issue with leaving iron in the water if your saucepan or pot you're using doesn't have a thick wall. So my commercial pots have really thick outside, you know, the pots are very thick. But I did buy a jam pot in France and it was aluminium and okay, it wasn't as flexible as that, but the wall was probably as thin as a piece of paper. And actually, I left my iron in it, or my rusty water in the pot, and it got holes in it within about a week. So it's very important if you have a pot that has very fine sides that you take the rust water and your pot liquid out between sessions and you put that into a bucket and you store it. So Amy has a question, and Amy, no question is too basic because we all have to start somewhere. And even if people are coming over from being experienced in another area, they may have no experience with this. So no question is too silly. So I'm just wondering, can I find a picture? Basically what happens with the rust water, hang on a second. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to put this up here. No, it's the wrong one. Okay, so if you look at this image here, this is a piece of felt. It's a sample that I made. And do you see at the top left-hand side where there is that red leaf with the stripy marks sort of laying over that leaf? So those stripy marks and the long line up the center of that piece, they come from the pot liquid. That color is a direct natural dye of what is the color that's in the pot. So when you tie your bundles and you have your bundles really tightly, let's just say that this lip thing of mine is my bundle and it's tied really tightly and it's very compact. So the fabric in the middle of the bundle won't get all that influence from the outside, but everything that's on the actual outside and both ends of the bundle, they get the dark liquid from the pot. So if I have a piece of fabric like this, and I lay my vegetation on one half of the fabric, and I fold it in half, and then I roll it up. I'll just roll this piece of paper, just so you get the idea. So all the outside bit here that's going to be in contact with the pot liquid, that all gets the darker color. And the center line, the fold, gets the darker color. And then when I open the piece out, there, that line up the middle is where that particular piece was folded, and the stripe mark is the piece that was under the string. Now that is the reverse side of this piece. So these prints here were in the middle of that bundle. You can see that they are a mirror image, and those prints are actually onion skin on felt, and that's handmade felt. It was in a dark pot, and if you didn't know better, you wouldn't think that that piece and that piece were the same piece of fabric, but they are. So it's very interesting, and they came out of this particular pot, this aluminium pot, not on that session, but they came out of that there. So as a beginner, my top tip, to go back to the question, which was, we've talked about the dirty pot and how you started. How do you achieve crisp, sharp eco prints as a beginner? I recommend you use wool. You use an aluminium pot if at all possible, but you can use your copper pot if you don't have aluminium at the moment. You use onion skins if you're new, because they are guaranteed to give you a good result. And there is nothing like getting good results right from the beginning. I'm all about giving people success. Like, why would you try and struggle and then just give up because you're not happy with what you get? Get good results and move from there. So roll your bundle and tie it extremely tightly. Boil it, not simmer. So simmer is not as hot as boiling. Boil your pieces for the best result in the dirty pot, and your prints will look beautiful. And Brigitte has a good question here. Will it work with just onions in the dirty pot and no eucalyptus? Absolutely, Brigitte, it will. And the thing about it is, you don't need to have any natural dye material in the pot at all. You can just have water and vinegar, and providing you use the correct vegetation that works without a mordant, you will still get successful results. But I like to play around with the stripes. I really, really like the effect of the stripes. And I'm just going to go down here. This is a good question. So I have a really, really, really big pot. That pot is 240 liters. And yeah, it's got a lid and it's wood fired. That pot came from a brocante, which is like a cross between a salvage yard and an antique shop in France, in fairly northern France. I was in France with my good buddy Caroline Nixon. I had my pickup truck with me, and it was like all my birthdays and Christmases had come together at the one time. So Veronica, thanks. So yes, so please be patient with me, folks. If you do have questions, put question marks in front of them, but I have to read them and talk at the same time. So oh, this is wonderful, Ferda. You also have Catalpa in Istanbul. It's beautiful to print with in the dirty pot. Absolutely beautiful. Oh, Monica, I don't have any drink, but cheers. Thank you so much. That's fantastic. Barbara has a question here. When adding additional water, yes, the boil will drop, but you just need to keep an eye on it and just get the lid back on as quickly as you can. I mean, it's impossible to keep it boiling the whole time, but it's interesting. I always say when I'm facilitating workshops, I always say to people, please have your pot at what we in Ireland call a rolling boil. So that's when the surface of the water is really bubbling quite aggressively. It's not just got a tiny little bubble. And people who are more scientific have said to me on occasion, but a boil is a boil. The temperature is the temperature. And my good friend Joanna came to a retreat in Portugal, and Joanna is actually a scientist. And she explained in the clearest possible terms to me, because she knew I was confused. I couldn't explain clearly why the rolling boil gives a better result than just a lower, a boil that's not bubbling so much. And she explained it's when the lid is on the piece. When you have a rolling boil, there's all this extra steam and the lid is on. There's more energy. So it's actually the energy in the pot is translating into better prints. So Jan, to a degree, there's slightly more to it than that. But yes, you won't get the stripe look if you don't have onion skins or eucalyptus in your pot liquid, if you don't have a color in your pot liquid. Yes, you won't. But there are other ways of not getting them as well. For example, you could have your bundle. I'm using the lip thing as an example, and you could tie your bundle, and then you could roll the bundle in an old piece of old cotton or a sheet and tie that and let the cotton take the dark pot liquid. One of the reasons as well, I like to have a lot of rusty metal in my pot on occasion, and the reason for that is it helps give you stronger prints, and it helps make them more washable, and it helps make them more color fast. So if you are making things that you want to sell or that you want to have long life from, it makes sense to have iron in the pot, and that leads to darker liquid, even if you have no vegetation. So I just think that, yeah, I think that I personally like the stripe marks. And here we have a question with Monica. Oh, Monica, you are going to love the EcoPrint and Wet Felt Club, because that is something that I will be sharing extensively all the time. I think maybe I'll actually put up some of the membership, this club that I have just launched. There's only until tomorrow night to join as a founding member. And Monica, I'm not going to answer that question now, if you don't mind, because that's something that we will cover extensively in the membership. But I will just add some of this. Oh, and I actually do have a question here. Is the beautiful cushion in the background eco-printed? Yes. Ignore my nice tracksuit bottom. So I have two cushions here in the background, and these are eco-printed with onion skins. And I eco-printed in a dirty pot, I eco-printed more lamb's wool. This is locally woven fabric, more lamb's wool for a tunic for myself. It was printed 6 years ago. I machine wash it constantly using olive oil soap, and it's as vibrant as this. And this was a long piece of fabric, and can you see down here it's darker? This is where the stripe marks are on this one. And this one here, it's darker there. The stripes were more on that end. And you can see, some of my hair on it. I also have my head on this. You can see this is where the fold line was, and it's a mirror image. Now, what's also interesting, let me just take that out of the way. What's also interesting is that, can you see the way it's a mirror image, but that the onion skins are not necessarily the same color on each side? That is because the outside bit of the onion skin, the bit that's drier and more papery on the outside, that gives a stronger, darker print, and then the inner curve gives a lighter print. So I always put some onion skins up and some onion skins down. Okay, I'm going to share some information about the EcoPrint and Wet Felt Club now, and then I will go back and I will check, and I would answer more questions. Okay, so I'm going to first of all do this here. So I have some questions here that I would suggest, if you're considering joining me for this membership, just ask yourself these questions if you haven't already jumped ahead. Okay, and I'll have to sort of read them out probably, because unless you have a big screen, you may not see them very easily. But my intention for the membership, for the club, it's to help you achieve the results that you've always wanted. Now, if you're very new to eco printing, you may not even know exactly what you want. But if you have had some experience eco printing or wet felting, and you are not happy with the results you've got, I actually facilitate workshops with many people who have had a bad experience with wet felting, and others, such as my great friend Caroline Nixon, who had a very bad experience when she eco-printed first, and she had no interest in eco-printing. And I just said to her, maybe I can change your mind. And that's exactly what happened. So I'm trying to cut to the chase and give you all the tips that that are going to just get you where you want to go. But if you don't know exactly where you want to go and you like my style of sharing information, you get loads out of it, hopefully, too. So if you're interested in learning how to create beautiful, colorful and washable prints without using traditional powdered mordants, this is the workshop for you, or the membership program. I also do natural dyeing using my own vegetation, and I always use powdered mordants if I'm working with something that needs them. I'm not against using the mordants, but there are health and environmental, you have to make a health conscious and, an environmentally mindful choice about using things. So I choose not to use them whenever possible, but I don't have a problem if they're used properly by other people. So I'm not saying I'm totally anti-mordant, but I am saying for 99% of what I do, I don't use them at all. And I also do some natural dyeing with no powdered mordants. And that's something that if people are interested in dyeing and maybe eco-printing on their dyed fabric, we can do that in the membership as well as the months progress. And in fact, I was setting up some exhibition pieces in Enniscorthy Castle yesterday. And one of my pieces, it's handmade felt. It's quite a big piece. It was on exhibition in Finland before. And it has vintage Japanese kimono silk, which I bound the outside with. So I printed the felt using my own leaves, but the outside I dyed the Japanese kimono silk, the vintage silk, with eucalyptus, so that the colors were complementary, but there's a different texture from the silk on the outside. So if you're an experienced eco printer and you've previously only worked using traditional powdered mordants, this could be the workshop for you. You can also put mordanted fabric into the eco printing pot, into the dirty pot. So that gives other results as well. And you can mordant your fabric using a natural plant-based mordant called Simplicose. And that's something I'm also happy to share. There's a bit of a palaver and a lot of effort involved in using it, but it's very interesting. And it's a plant-based mordant that accumulates alum or aluminium in the leaves. So that's a very interesting thing that, again, I'm more than happy to share that within the club once we've gone over the basics. So you might be interested in printing upcycled garments. You might be interested in printing on paper. You might want to learn which vegetation gives reliable and washable prints time after time. You might be interested in growing more of your own plants. You might be interested in the design aspect of laying out vegetation, or you might be interested in clothes, growing clothes. My goodness, my brain, not growing clothes. You might be interested in sewing clothes. So there's a difference when you eco-print fabric and you sew with that fabric. There's a difference in maybe how you might choose to lay it out compared to when you actually print clothing right from the scratch. I'll show you a few pictures of clothing in a minute. So wet felting. So maybe you've had a bad experience. Would you like a simple step-by-step guide for successful results all the time? Are you interested in Nuno felting? That's using Nuno felting is using silk or wool or cotton fabric and adding fiber. So very, very little fabric, plenty of fiber. Sorry. Let me rephrase that. This is me. This is day 6 of a long week that has been very exhilarating. Okay, so very little wool, more fabric. That's what Nuno felt is. It's very, very, very flexible and flowing. So that's something that I will be sharing extensively. But there are many people who have health issues, and they may not be able to do the physicality, cope with the physicality of felting. So I'm going to be sharing how to felt, and do that in a way that you do not need to do any rubbing and rolling by hand. And I just see, Fiona, that you have joined and you're a complete beginner to eco printing, and you did some wet felting a while ago. Okay, I honestly think this is going to blow your mind, because it blew mine, and it still does. I have to say, I never ever wake up in the morning and I don't want to get out of bed. I always want to get out of bed. I can't wait to get at things. And it's been very frustrating not having as much studio time over the last 2 years. That's just due to my mother's ill health and somebody else's ill health that I'm helping care for. But one of the reasons I'm really, really keen on the membership is that I've managed to change my hours helping with them. I'm going to get loads more studio time, and that means I can share things almost in real time with you. So it's going to be fantastic. I'm very excited myself. So thank you very much for joining me, ladies. So I'll just say here, so are you an experienced felter, but you've never tried eco printing? But you also might be an eco printer who's never tried felting. And I do think that the membership, the club, is going to be a fun and supportive environment. That's what I would like to think. And I do think that people who have done previous online workshops with me will agree. We had a very nice ethos within, you know, the groups and the members. But Kajabi, the platform I'm using for the membership platform, is it's more expensive for me, but it seems to be easier to use than Rizuku, which was my teaching platform. Now, I was happy to teach via Rizuku, but I have to say already I'm thinking that Kajabi is going to be way easier to work, and it's much more interactive, and it's very much more streamlined. So I'm hoping that everybody will really, really get a lot of value and enjoy using that. So it's going to be, if you enjoy being part of a fun, informative and active club, and you make proper lifelong friends, and I'll give you the roadmap for success, I think the club may be for you. So I'm going to just share here. Oh, 1 second now. Here we go. So some of you may be wondering, if you didn't see videos earlier in the week, how can, or is it possible to print cellulose fabric? Because I'm doing a lot of talking about felt and wool, and also about silk. Is it possible to print cellulose fabric using homemade rust water? And there are so many different ways of doing that. And again, that will all be covered within the membership club. Because, for example, you can use soy milk or yogurt or regular milk. There are different natural ways you can prepare your fabric to receive color, and you can get bright colored prints by doing it. But my actual personal favorite is this one. And this is using homemade rust water to dip my pieces of linen. They could be upcycled clothing, or they could be it could be linen fabric. It could be an old beautiful tablecloth. You might want to make curtains, etc., etc. So I dip the fabric for 40 seconds in homemade rust water. And here you see blackberry leaves on an upcycled linen shirt. And blackberry is particularly good. It has a very good reaction with the iron, I think, and it prints beautifully. And Monica here has an excellent question. So do I use blackberry leaves on silk? So yes, I do. And I have a really simple tip for you. So the first thing is, let's just say, hang on a second. Okay, I know this doesn't look like a leaf, but let's just say this is the leaf. The blackberry leaf, the stem, say my finger is the stem kind of joins it at the back here. So the first thing I do is I would always cut, sorry, it's not the easiest. I would cut the leaf off the stem at the back of the leaf. That's the first thing to do. So you don't have as many prickly bits on the stem of the leaf. And then what I do is I put the leaf face down on the table with all the prickles facing me. And I get a pipe, like a copper pipe, and I roll the pipe or a rolling pin on that, and it just breaks all the little barbs. And then, yes, I print silk with blackberry. So I just wanted to answer that question while I saw the blackberry up here on the screen. Please don't say that word HEMP or write it in the comments, because I nearly had a violation on YouTube when I mentioned I used organic HEMP fabric. It's absolutely wonderful. This fabric is like a fleece, and it took the color beautifully. So these are cotinus leaves, and they are on cellulose fabric. And again, this was just dipped in rust water. And there are other plants. That's a side view. That was the top when I made it up. I was doing a pattern test. And here, these are blackberry leaves and the seed pods from rose bay willow herb. And on this linen, these prints are more purple looking, whereas on that there, those are a little bit blacker. So the blackberry on these trousers was a little bit more purple. Some of that can depend on the season. Some of it can depend on the age of the plant, or it might depend on the fabric or how strong the rust water was. But interestingly, in Portugal and in the west of Ireland, where my good friend Kim Titichai lives, the blackberry leaves in Portugal and in the west of Ireland, they print very much blacker than mine. Mine print more purple. And raspberry leaves are also really good to eco print with. So I think those are all my questions. I'm just checking down here just to see. Thank you so much, all of you, for tuning in. Ferda, I won't forget about you because I've made a note here. I'm just going to write it on my pad if nobody objects. So Ferda, certainly we can sort something out for payment. If you send me a private message on either Instagram or Facebook with your email address, and let me know whether you would like to register as an annual member or a subscription member, that would be wonderful. And actually, that is something that I didn't mention for anybody who's here that may not have heard how much it actually is. Normally, usually, now when I say normally, this is a program that I am really developing. I've been working 4.5 months behind the scenes to develop the EcoPrint and Wet Felt Club. And the reason I'm offering it at 50% discount for this very short limited time only is that I'm hoping the founding members with me will help me drive the direction, and we'll build the library. I will be putting lots of information in on a weekly basis, really, particularly at the beginning. Then what do you actually get if you join? So let me just put this up here. So right from the beginning, there's a little bit of content on it now, but from next week onwards, loads of content will be getting uploaded regularly. We're going to have an onboarding Zoom call on Tuesday. I have 2 different time options, and anybody who can't make either of those calls, they will be recorded and you will be able to view them afterwards. And I will just give people a little tour of my screen and a little tour of what the Kajabi platform is like and how to access things. I'm taking 2 nights off then. So I'm away on Wednesday night and Thursday night. And then from the weekend, we will be getting, everything will be just really progressing really from there. But I don't want to overwhelm people by having so much in the library right now until we have our onboarding call. So you're going to get loads of video tutorials. You're going to get PDF files that you can download with instructions for the tutorials or for various specific things. And the reason for that is some people take things in better by looking. Some people enjoy reading. I'm hoping to upload audio files as well for people who might like to listen on the go. There will be a monthly live training session dedicated to the club members, and it will be hosted in a similar way to these, but it will be totally private just for us. There will be 2 weeks later a monthly live question and answer session. So those will be 2 opportunities to interact with me so every month live, and have your questions answered. I'm very conscious that we all live in different time zones. So I'm going to try and accommodate as many people as possible. So one month the calls might be early in the morning, my time, and another month they might be later in the day, my time, to try and accommodate people in different hemispheres and different parts of the world. We'll work that out together as we go along. So the next time the membership is offered, it's going to be offered at $99 US dollars per month. And then that would be $990 per year. And I feel at that it is also good value. I'm a member in different programs to learn about developing membership programs, and they cost quite a bit more than that. And I appreciate it's a big investment, but it's an investment in you. It's an investment in your practice. And if you choose to pay the annual subscription, it's renewable annually if you want to stay a member. But regardless of which subscription if you're taking the annual subscription and you decide after the first 2 weeks, there's a 14-day total money back guarantee. I won't ask any questions. So if you decide you've hit that order button and for some reason it's not for you, I'm very, very happy to refund you your money. So please don't worry. There's a 14-day money back guarantee. I'm also happy to give anybody a 14-day money back guarantee with the $49 per month subscription. But with the subscription from then on, you can just quit at any stage. And so the thing to do would be to quit towards the end of the date that you join. And then, when the next month's subscription becomes due, you won't have to pay it. So you're not locked in for anything. But as long as you decide that you want to be a member, you can have that price forever. So when it goes up to $99 per month or $990 per year, if you've joined as a founding member, my sort of thank you, etc., to you is that you're going to get to stick with it at that price forever. And I will be getting your input into where you would like to go, what you would like to learn as the months progress. And the library will be building and building and building. I don't want to overwhelm people, but I'm conscious that I also want people with more experience to have something to grab hold of and run with. So we have a private Facebook group, and already that's been beautifully active. I just haven't time while I'm doing these live streams and have things happening in the background. I haven't time to communicate regularly on our private Facebook group, but from next weekend onwards, I will be checking it regularly. And the sort of thing I'm hoping to do there is if somebody in the membership club, if they have a question about something and they post a question or put a picture of something and they've had a problem maybe, when I'm in my studio, which is going to be more and more as this year progresses, if I see that I'm eco-printing and the answer to your question is something that I can demonstrate quickly in the morning, I'm just going to record that, and they will be unedited videos, and I will post things very regularly up to the Facebook group. So you will it'll be just like a backseat view of my studio and what's happening. It'll be warts and all. You wouldn't want to see what I'll be wearing part of the time, or some of the time, I'd say. But so the private Facebook group will be a really great interactive place. But if you absolutely hate Facebook, old videos will be uploaded to Kajabi, the membership platform, and they will all be accessible there as well. So if you don't want to join in on the Facebook group, there is no obligation to do so. But the majority of the live streams, the question and answer sessions, all of those are going to be streamed like this one here is. They will be streamed to Facebook, to our private group. So it's going to be a big library of content, which is only going to grow as we move on. There are going to be challenges. I'm going to have themes, not every month, but there will be themes and things that you can, really work towards. If you're interested then after the basics in maybe tannin and iron combinations, working with organic indigo and eco print, maybe natural dyeing with some of your own vegetation, etc., combining that with eco printing, all of those things are going to be on my radar. And I do think one of the biggest perks is just getting in at the the foundation of this membership. And then once all the foundation trainings have been uploaded and you've worked through them, you will have a good input into the direction that we go in the future, and you're locked in at that founding members price. Now, I see that there are a few questions, I think, or comments coming up over here. So I'm going to just go there. I'll have to look. So let me see. Brilliant. So I will check your message immediately. Well, in fact, I have to cook my food. I'm cooking fish in white sauce to go with my baked potato. So I won't forget you, but it might be tomorrow morning. If you don't mind, Ferda, I need to just have a think about it. If I don't get back to you tonight, I've written it down. If you send me the message immediately, that's wonderful. And if you thought you would like to do an electronic transfer, I can send you my, and make sure your email address is there. I can send you that via, yeah, we'll chat. We'll chat tonight and we'll sort it out. So Monica, thanks very much. Yeah, the thing about the videos, for anybody who's feeling like, I would obviously love everybody to jump on board for the club if they can, but I'm also conscious that, first of all, I don't want to come across as pushy. I don't want to push anybody into financial investment that they feel that they're not in a position to make or that they regret. I want people to join me who really want to. I will continue to upload videos to YouTube, but it's all those little things, the behind the scenes, how to get, like, there's so much more I can share, but I really almost need to be face to face to you. And it's taken me a lot of learning and experimenting myself to get to this stage. And I do value what I do, and I hope I value what I give other people, and that you get good value from it. It's my only livelihood. So that's a reason I'm very excited that so many people have joined, because I can actually put as much energy as possible into the membership program now without having to write more online workshops. So you're going to really get the benefit of that, because I think this is a good way forward, and it suits my personal family commitments, you know, helping care for my mother with Alzheimer's and another relative with dementia. It actually is more suited to this model. So I really think it's going to be beneficial for both of us, and I just can't wait for us to get started. So let's see. Thanks very much, Barb. So you're not automatically added to the Facebook club group, because you have to opt in, because some people may choose not to. So when somebody joins, they should get a confirmation email, and then they set up their password, etc., username for the membership platform. And then there's a whole welcome section there, and you should get an email welcome from me with a link to the group. But if by any chance people haven't got that, who have already joined, I mean, I think a lot of people must, because they're already joining the Facebook group. But if there's been any problem with the automation, I'll be able to sort it out. And I will be sending everybody either late tomorrow night or maybe 12 at night in Irish time tomorrow. The membership is going to be closed midnight. It's already closed. So if anybody's interested, you have to really get in before 10 to 12 tomorrow night Irish time. I will put some reminders up online tomorrow. And then once that's happened, I'm going to send everybody an email, and there will be the links for our onboarding Zoom call. And I will repeat the link for the Facebook group, but you have to ask to join. And if people have joined the club and not used their name, if their email address is very different than their name or their Facebook name, it will be very helpful when you request to join, if you let me know that your name is different, because I've had to do quite a bit of searching to work that out. So thanks so much, Ferda. I know I'm just a bit hungry. I want to get this sorted, but equally I'm hungry, and I'm on antibiotics because I hurt my ham the other day. So Veronica, I'm so happy that you've enjoyed this, and thank you so much. It's just been a pleasure, and I'm really glad you enjoyed the ebook as well. It's like the Bible. I hope no one who's religious objects to me saying that. I'm really glad that you have enjoyed this, Veronica. And there's just no, you know, if you're not able to join the founders members, absolutely no problem, Veronica, because I will still be uploading things every week to YouTube, and I will be able to, I will be hosting more boot camps. And for anybody who's not joining the club, 1 second now, here is the link to my public Facebook group. So that is there for people who are in the club as well, but that's there for you also. So please, if you haven't already joined that, join that. I'm just going to check now. Yeah, Barb, you should be able to find it. And if not, just bump me a private message on Instagram or Facebook. But I'm so busy behind the scenes preparing for these sessions and trying to get everything organized and making sure that there's a lot to do with the automations and stuff. So if you have any problems, send me a message, we'll sort it out, and I'll make sure that you get the information for next week. Okay, so does anybody have any other questions? I will be live again tomorrow night at 6 o'clock as well. Kimmy, thanks a million for the lovely comment. You're just going to blow it away, Kimmy. I think already you've been doing beautiful things. The book is like a Bible. The membership is really, it's implementing all the knowledge, and it is it's implementing the knowledge, and it is there are more nuances. Thank you very much for putting that up, Ferda. I'm going to write that down. Natural Stories, which is a wonderful, wonderful name. And it is really interesting because many people don't have their personal name on, let's say, their Instagram or their Facebook profiles. But that can make it a little bit difficult for me sometimes. And then when emails are different. So thanks for that, Ferda, and we'll sort you out. So look, thank you all so much for your time listening to me. And I will be live streaming again at 6 o'clock tomorrow night, which is the last day. I'm happy to answer any more questions in relation to the bootcamp videos. So please don't hesitate to ask them. And I look forward to seeing those of you who've joined the EcoPrint and Wet Felt Club. I really look forward to working with you and sharing what I can and seeing your beautiful pieces. So thanks so much, everyone. Over and out for tonight from Clasheen.